Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the Double Digit Podcast. We are live right now. Waiting on Steve Owens to come on in, so we'll figure that out. But wonder how you guys are doing today on Labor Day week. Is everybody fishing? What are you guys doing? We are now live. Inside the live stream. We are live, but but yeah, sent an email to Steve Owens, so we'll see. I sent him the latest link. Let's see if he joins us in a few seconds. Max Lee is in the chats. He's saying what's up, and he just got off of work. That's the deal right there. The deal. Let me see. I'm going to click the link and then launch Safari on my cell phone just to make sure the link works on my end. Yep, there's 4 people in the live stream right now. We'll stop mic and then enter studio. Yep, it looks like it's working. We'll just wait for Steve Owens to come on in, but honestly, I haven't fished much. I'm going to be dropping a video pretty soon, probably tomorrow morning, and it's going to be a whole walkthrough of the Jackson Take 2 kayak. It's going to be including Hooker Brother Up, Chris Cabral, aka the SoCal Wizard. Casual bass guys in the chats right now. Like I said, Max Lee was in the chats. So that video is going to go live tomorrow. But other than that, I haven't been fishing much. Really excited about what's going to happen next year. I'm not sure myself. So we'll see. I think Steve Owens clicked the wrong link. Let me send him the new link. Copy link and paste. This is the new link. Yeah, so we were originally supposed to be on Friday, I believe, Thursday or Friday. And so I believe he entered the last link, but let's bring him on right now. How's it going, Steve?
Hey man, as long as you don't make it simple, I'll be doing all right. If you make it simple, I'll screw it up.
Go ahead and introduce yourself to me because I haven't. This is my first time talking to you, and I would like to get to know you on a deeper level instead of just hear your name always on the Alex Rudd podcast, because I've actually been tuning in to the Rudd podcast here and there. And I hear your name pop up all the times about the new rules for the Bassmaster Kayak Championship. As well as the big conversation is like which one's better, the Hobie BOS versus the Bassmaster Championship, and etc. So give an introduction, like an elevator speech.
Yeah, good to speak with you finally. I've followed along with your stuff for a little while, and like I do everything, I'm just a fan of the sport, period. And but before I got too heavy into the tournament directing. I got to fish a lot, so obviously, kind of like sports figures, we follow each other and keep up, which is unique about the kayak community. It's
Yeah.
something I feel like we do more than a lot of sports. But got into tournament directing about as quick as we got into kayak fishing. I'm from Tennessee. I live on Lake
Mhm.
Chickamauga, and myself and a friend, we were friends for probably a dozen or so years before we got into kayak fishing. Ryan Lambert, we started a grassroots club here on Chickamauga, and that spun over to me running KBF events on Chickamauga and Gunnersville for KBF and Chad Hoover, and then we grew in Tennessee. Excuse me, I was like I was dead sick last week, and I still got a lot of junk going on in my chest. So,
Did you figure
but
out what that was?
man, I don't. It felt like COVID. I've had COVID twice, and just that
Mhm.
head, like feeling like this big, like a bass drum, and it felt
Wow.
like the flu. But I tested negative twice, so I mean, I don't know. But just
Mhm.
like immediately, I woke up with the junk and the stuff in my
Mhm.
chest. I'm still wheezy, but I feel perfectly fine now. But it was just like a 3 day thing that just tore me down, and it was gone.
Do you
Like I
feel
literally was.
100% now?
I except for the wheezing, like it's still in my chest. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
give it until next week, and if it's still there, I'm gonna go to the doctor. But yeah, I was
Okay.
just sitting at home and probably got up, got moving around, and then just like a
Mhm.
light switch, I just energized and felt good. But no, we got in Tennessee, we've got a pretty big grassroots system called CAST, Kayak Anglers
Mhm.
Society of Tennessee, and there's 10 clubs in it, and it's regional. So like if you live in like say Sacramento, you got a club. You live in La Jolla, you got a club, and
Mhm.
and so it's designed so that each area we all have the same rules. We all fish into the same state championship, but it's
Mhm.
designed so that your tournament travel is minimal. And most clubs average 20 to 50 or 60 here some years in Tennessee in 10 clubs. So
Mhm.
we did it, it grew into, from 4 or 5 clubs to now 10 or 11. And
Mhm.
where we're at now geographically, we're kind of maxed out. Like if we start adding more clubs, then you're just going to delete the ones that are existing. But that grew into some bigger stuff. And then um, Dwayne Wally reached out with Bassmaster, and we with some other tournament directors, Juan Nunez and Patrick Malone and Tyler Cole. We helped form and build the Bassmaster Kayak series, and I ran
Mhm.
the first one of those on Logan Martin. We had in conjunction with the Bassmaster Classic 3 or 4 years ago, and then helped run that for a year, run a couple of events, and then had to back out of it. Didn't have enough time to stay engaged in it and travel because of my work schedule. And my partner, one of my best friends, Daniel Davis, we started Tennessee Bass Nation and Georgia Bass Nation eventually kayak series, and we've grown it. And so I was able to commit back to the Bassmaster series last year, and then it took until February this year, and I left my full time job that I've done, my since I've gotten out of school for 20 something years. I
Mhm.
was a chemical plant reactor operator and worked in maintenance at a chemical plant too, and so I worked for Dugout Bait and Tackle in Marietta, Georgia too. I run the kayak staff and
Mhm.
marketing and do some sales there. So I work remote there. So between all of that stuff added together, I was able to not have any more time to do anything, plus work a 40-hour job. So my wife and I got together, and she let me, bet on myself. And now this is what I do full time. It's just run tournaments and work for Dugout Bait and Tackle. And I mean, literally, it sounds cliche, but I build tournaments so that we have something to fish, because the amount of people that thank me, and you could just see the happiness it provides for a lot of people. That's my goal, is to fill the Excel sheet up with as many names as I can every event. Because I want everybody to get out, no matter your experience level, and have fun competing against each other.
Right. So that's an amazing story. Why so you think you can make a living just doing tournament directing and running tournaments?
No,
Is
being a
it
little bit
possible?
transparent. It is
Yeah.
possible, but when I say, I do this for a living, there's not much money in it at all. But my wife,
Mhm,
we're blessed to be in a good situation. So I was able to leave. The job I had was very substantial,
mhm.
but I'm 48. We have about all the things we need, and the Lord has taken care of everything we need for our future. A lot of it.
Mhm.
So I was able to do this, and of course, like I said, I work for Dugout Bait and Tackle remotely too,
Okay.
so I have that job as well. So, but no, I mean, you could, but you'd have to be a single man
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
paid off car, and
Right,
so
living
yeah,
very under your means.
you would have to,
Pretty m
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe car
but
camping like Russ Snyder.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I've done that. I've slept in my truck a few times, but I actually travel with them some, and whew,
Mhm.
I couldn't do that. But he's got a good setup now, though. He's got a pretty good setup. As long as you got a good, comfortable mattress, and you can be like Greg, he's got the little air conditioner thing going on if he needs it. Blanchard there, and
Oh, does he have the AC?
well, he would. I think he would get up and like bump his truck on and cool because he put the shields around his windows all around the inside to help
Oh, really?
insulate it or whatever. But I'm sure in the summertime it just sucks. There's just no way around it in a vehicle, I guess. But
Yeah. I think he's probably grown out of his vehicle to just I think he's more comfortable fishing with his Dark Horse division and the
yeah,
Airbnb and etcetera.
yeah,
Which is always great when you come back from practice, like 2 days of practice, and then come back from a 2-day tournament. Having that cold shower is nice, right after you get off the water, and then I don't really drink myself, but for those that do drink beer, um, it's probably, like, the best feeling having a cold beverage after a long days of fishing.
yeah. You
Um,
got sore muscles. You got something comfortable to sit on. Yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned dugout fishing.
Mhm.
I wanna know, like, what's the biggest secret to have a great team like the team that you have right now, and how do you guys keep them happy? How do you guys keep them to keep on promoting dugout?
Yeah. Well, part of it's kind of like when we started our team here
Mhm,
in Tennessee, our grassroots kayak series, it got pretty successful early on, and as the travel anglers would come through fishing a KBF or a Hobie or something, they would stop in and fish our tournament too. Um, and so other people would call and like, how do you guys do this and that, A, B, and C, and there really is no answer. You can't. You just do it, and it happens organically. That's something I
mhm,
don't. Obviously we all have to plan. I don't plan a ton. I don't put a lot of structure to a plan or something. I have a generalized idea, and then I'm just a
mhm,
people person. So I just kind of jump in, and early on, we were able to see where we could partner with some industry reps, from some companies, and work on, getting our anglers partnered with those people to
mhm,
promote not only dugout but that product as well. So let's just say Pure Fishing. We've got
mhm,
Christine Fisher, Jesse Halverson, Josh Stewart, Priscilla Johnson. They're on a Pure Fishing team
mhm,
for us and Pure Fishing. So they get to promote those brands and work with that company, and in conjunction, hopefully, Pure Fishing advertises those four anglers, and then it
mhm.
advertises the whole sport. Because you and I as
Oh, wow.
kayakers, we only market to kayakers. That's who's watching our shows and coming to our tournaments. So
Mhm,
we need companies like Z Pro and Pure Fishing and Hobie and Jackson and Native and Old Town,
mhm,
well, let me back up. Leave the kayak manufacturers out. We need Pure Fishing, Daiwa, Shimano. We need them to advertise our anglers being successful, because what that does is then it shows people
right,
outside of the kayak community, hey, this
right,
kayak stuff is real. And then they investigate it. And we always bring up the money that you can win in tournaments. And I don't like doing that
mhm,
anymore because I mean, tournament fishing is always going to evolve into something better or
mhm,
bigger. It's just natural progression. You get people together being competitive, And as long as sensibilities stay together, everybody will grow it together because we all want the same thing. As long as you can keep egos out, and do it for the right reasons for one another, just like in a marriage, you do
Mm-hmm.
for your spouse, you're naturally going to benefit that way. Um, and so as long as and when those companies highlight a kayaker, you know, forget the money, but it shows them another avenue of fishing. So because what I've learned working with Bassmaster is there are so many people that stay up to the latest news in the bass world that
Mm-hmm.
don't even fish out of a boat. There's a lot of bank people. There's a lot of people that just fish out of john boats and flat bottoms. They're just
Mm-hmm.
fans of the game. Well, if you show them that there's a way that they can fish a Bass Nation event to fish their way into a Bass Master Championship, then that might pique their interest a little bit. And then, as you know, fishing out of a kayak, once you get in it, if it clicks for you,
Mm-hmm.
like I fished out of a boat with one of my best friends, Kuth Toy, last week, and
Yeah.
we had a blast. But it wasn't the same as fishing out of our kayaks,
It's
you know.
different. I hopped in my
Yeah.
buddy's boat. He just installed live scope, the LV34 and the 126 Garmin.
Hmm.
And granted, I caught a fish within like the first 5 minutes on live scope for him. He wanted me to show him how the settings are, how to fish it, how to gauge the distance between the transducer and the cast, and etc. Um, it was different. It's something you got to get used to. I feel like in a kayak, boat position is a little bit easier to get in on a kayak. Now to keep boat position is probably a little bit harder, but I feel like to aim a cast, to dial in a cast on a kayak is actually a lot easier than being on a bass boat. But that's just my experience from the last trip that I had. But
Oh
I
yeah, we were trying to
100%.
skip docks and we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
We looked like a
Right,
bunch of
because
rookies. Yeah.
exactly, because the kayak, you're so low to the water, you're almost level to the water that you just cast it.
Yeah.
Like you just skip it underneath there. And places like a cattle lake with cypress trees, casting in between those cypress trees on the knees with the chatterbait or spinnerbait, it's super key. Super key.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to what you're saying is Daiwa, Shimano, but not only those brands, but to me, I think once you guys get to a level where you can bring on Toyota
Mhm.
and what would you call those sponsorships again? The non-endemics
Yeah.
sponsors.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I feel like maybe possibly is Bassmaster Nation, not Bassmaster Nation, but Bassmaster Championships. Are they going to have some sort of live in the future? Do you think?
Well, I can't, and I mean, I hope so. I mean, I
Hmm.
think we all want that. We need it.
Yeah.
Steve Fields with Hobie has some brilliant insight on how to do that,
Hmm.
but it's just a lot of money because, on those boats, you can put a booster, out there for that
Yeah.
camera to come back to the trailer, the travel trailer. We can
Right.
we can utilize the Bassmaster streaming trailers. We had a plan going into this year to try to be able to do that if we could get the
Hmm.
schedules to, like, let's say, for conversations purposes, the elites were fishing Lake Chickamauga this weekend.
Hmm.
We could put a tournament on a kayak during their off limits period, like the weekend before, and we would
Hmm.
have the streaming trailer here on Lake Chickamauga. So we could utilize that for our
Ah.
check-ins, awards, and stuff. And
Yeah.
then them just come in, and the trailer would be here, and then someone else could just take it over. We weren't able to do that yet. We're still working on it, but
Yeah.
we could be able to do that. But like I just mentioned, you have to have a booster of some sort to be able to do that lake wide broadcast, and you can do it. I know that
Hmm.
Duke with Catch Outdoors and all of them, they worked with some people to work on that, but I'm
Hmm.
talking about like 10 grand a rig. The equipment's not waterproof, so it's a lot of headaches and hurdles, but it can be done. I'm
Hmm.
sure it's very easy to be done for people that know how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I can work on a car, but I can't rebuild a transmission. So the
Yeah.
people who can do the electronic stuff, it's a bang, bang, bang for them. But the key to it all is, like you mentioned, Toyota, non-endemics. We just don't have that kind of money in kayaking right now from sponsors. And I don't know when
Yeah.
we'll get it. It's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be a little while,
Mhm.
because I know, like we've all been doing this at a high level in our world for what do you say, probably 4 or 5 years now. It's been ascending, and then the Bassmaster reset and kind of revamp was very good
Mhm.
this year. Attendance has just gone up almost 85% a tournament
Wow.
for the season. And the Hobie series is rocking along. There's still good payouts, and then the Bass Nation stuff in certain areas is growing too. So all
Mhm.
of these platforms are being built, but I don't think we're that far into the game like we feel, because we've been in it so long. We're like, man, we're
Mhm.
there, or we've been working at this so long. We may be 5 more years away. So that's why patience is key. So like when schedules come out, and because we can't have 12 events. I'd love to have 12 events, but we don't have enough anglers to fill 12 events, you know
Right.
because there's a magic number in every tournament series. You got to have 110 anglers to break even with expenses,
Mhm.
because there's not sponsor dollars. When we are able to get sponsor dollars, and
Mhm.
you can say trust me as long as you want to, but seriously trust me, when that kind of sponsor money comes in,
Mhm.
tournament entities release it, because they know that if they don't make it the ROI for the angler really good, then they're going to lose people a little at a time, and slow bleeding is worse than just shutting down. So it can happen, but that's why I feel like we have to be patient. When you put a tournament on a body of water that might not be the best in the world or ideal, we still have to show up and fish these things. We're replanting the seed every time we do that. We just show up, fish against one another, even though it's not ideal,
Mhm.
or the best time of year, or the best body of water, or the weather, whatever it is. But it's hard to tell people like us who work for a living, go ahead and spend that money, and you're not going to have a great time. You're not going to fish the body of water that you want to, but come out
Mhm.
anyway. Well, that's what the boat
Yeah.
world does. The
Yeah.
BFLs, the Apex. I don't know if you know Dave Swinson out there, but he's a phenomenal ambassador to the sport.
Mhm.
He's a Duralis developmental guy. He was just in some pretty bad injuries he's got to recover from. But those people, they're bought in to that culture there, and I don't know that we have that in the kayak world yet. We've got a lot of dedicated people that have weathered the storm and fished through a lot. But
Mhm.
we got to continue to do that, because we've got to build the culture that's already been built for 50 to 70 years in the boat world. Well, we're probably 5 good years. I mean, we've had, KBF started the first, big level of tournament series, 10, about 9 years ago, I would say, was probably their first national championship on Kentucky Lake. It wasn't even Kentucky Lake, it was a body of water close to there. Um, and then after that, Chad molded it and made it bigger, got advertising into it. And we have to safeguard these relationships. So when we bring a sponsor on board, we have to take care of them.
Yeah.
We can't just take.
Definitely.
We got to prove that we can give them something in return. So, we've just got to keep plugging away. I tell
Yeah.
everybody, when you're building something and you get resistance, don't get. I don't even want to use the word pouty, because that sounds insulting, but don't get insulted. Don't get in your feelings. Just get upset and grit your teeth and be like, you're not going to run me off. I'm going to build this, and just stay invested in it.
Yep.
So that's what it's going to take to get us to the next level. Is because Alex, you mentioned Alex. Alex, we're becoming better friends. We've communicated over the years. He just lives about an hour and 45 minutes from me in Knoxville.
Mhm.
Great ambassador of just fishing. Period. I shared with him the other day on his podcast. He was one of the first people I watched on YouTube, because I didn't know how to bass fish. I grew up fishing for crappie on nickajack.
Oh, wow.
And then me and Lambert got we got the kayaks just to get out because he had
Mhm.
sold his duck boat, and he found a native FX 15 tandem, kind of a
Yeah.
canoe kayak hybrid, and he
Mhm.
went and bought one, and then we loaded up in my car and drove 6 hours. I left work early one day, so did he, and we drove 6 hours to North Carolina and bought me a used one, and we hadn't looked back, but that's what we got into it for, was the pan fishing. And then, we got into he fished a bass tournament on a whim. It was a little partner tournament with somebody. He stopped by Walmart, bought a prepackaged thing of yum dingers and worms. And
Yeah.
his partner showed him how to set up a Texas rig, and they won that
Yeah.
tournament together. And
Oh, wow.
so he was after me for about a year. He's like, "Man, you got it." I was like, "Dude, I'm not going fishing for a bass. I go catch crappie.
Really?
I'll catch 40 crappie in
Yeah.
5-6 hours. Why would I
Yeah.
go after 3 bass? Because you know how it is. A lot of
Mhm.
days, well, I caught a bass on a spinner bait. I was really actually targeting them, and when I caught that first bass, it got me, and I was like, "Man, this is pretty cool." And so
Mhm.
my wife laughed. She said, "You used to come home with your limit of crappie and talk about how you caught 40 crappie. Now you come home and you're excited because you got 3 bites. You didn't even catch a
Yeah.
fish. You got 3 bites and you're happy." And I was like, "Well,
Right.
that's just bass fishing." And then,
Yeah.
we got into. I worked night shift at that reactor job I was telling you about, and it was really hard for me to get off work. So I found a way to uh, get off work a little early, fish a tournament, red eyed all day long, and
Mhm.
caught some fish. And then after that, I was able to work my way around to a second shift job on that same one, so I could be off on the weekends. And then everything just started building, and here we are now. So,
Yeah.
but that was that. And so, but Alex and Fluke Master and Winker Doodle. I was trying to tell
Mhm.
Alex Rudd, that old guy's name. He's a guy from Wisconsin, I think, fishes out of a kick boat and another boat, but Winker Doodle was
Yeah.
his name. That's the 3 that I watched on YouTube, and that was kind of cool to get to be on his show. It's like he's some sort of legend or OG, and I'm older than he is, so that was pretty fun.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing with like bass fishing is 120 incher. It could change your frown upside down.
That's
You know,
right.
it could just make you happy instantly catching a 20, give you that boost that maybe you need after hard days of work. I have an excellent question from one of the guys in the chats, Max Lee. Speaking of which, this guy caught like 120-inch bag in 1 month in California, which was
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like I believe he caught like 2 7s and 8, 2 9s. Crazy. Um, he's never been to a kayak classic, but he wants to know like how receptive are the fans of bass fishing in terms of kayak bass fishing anglers over at the championship.
It was great. I think a lot of people will tell you, this classic this year in Knoxville, I feel like something shifted in the fishing industry. We've always been seen, but and then like I go to ICAST because I do purchasing for Dugout Bait and Tackle as well. So
Hmm.
so when I go and I'm doing those things, the reps and people, as you all know, the reps are the people who get things done. They're the ones
Hmm.
that are working day in and day out. And so those relationships are important too. So the reps have always known, and through us communicating and being friends with them, they see the level of what we all do. I think now the boat world, or the fishing industry, like he's talking about the classic, they saw it. Like I have I'm not going to overstate it by too much when I say 2 or 3 dozen people in the industry have mentioned how many people that were kayakers were walking around that classic.
Hmm.
Because every time they stop by, like the Daiwa booth or the Rapala or 13 booth, they're talking fishing. Well, then naturally it's like, what kind of boat you got? Well, then they tell them a kayak, and then they spend 15, 20 minutes talking to each rep, or if the guy isn't fishing the classic, then the literal professional fisherman. And then through a lot of hard work, a lot of these professional fishermen are getting to know all of us on a personal level. And so they see what we do, and we're texting pictures, and they're like, "How much does that weigh?" Well, then the next thing you know, they're fishing out of a kayak, and they get the same feel from us. So
Hmm.
organically, that networking has paid off, so much so that I really think it clicked this past year. So to answer your question, Max, it was well received. They're starting to understand Again, you can mention money all day long because that's what drives most everything, but that's a given in things. But the industry's seeing that we buy, as much product as these boaters. We just don't use gas and oil as much. We don't have to spend $150 in gas just to have a day of fishing, but we buy the product. We buy the product, and through, because one thing I think that helped energize it a little bit too was, after COVID, when people's normal shifted, a lot of people didn't adjust their production numbers to catch the fall off when people had to go back to work, so to speak, when stipend money ran out. So a lot of people were sitting with a lot of product. Well, then they start looking and they're cutting staff. They're cutting boaters. Boat staffs got cut like crazy last year. Well, then these kayakers who are on product deals, some have money deals. These manufacturers see kayakers just, promoting their butts off, and they really appreciated that. And so the Classic was a long way, was another good way for the networking that got to happen there. And so the industry has seen a lot more of us, and they're receiving it. They're opening up to it. We just have to continue to keep it out there. Keep it out there. Do your thing on social media. Don't go crazy with the hashtags and the ats because the algorithm will bury you. But if you're on a team, 2 posts a month is not too much to ask. It's very easy for you to do. But you need to,
2 posts is nothing. I mean, I'm
scheduling
on a daily basis.
You're right.
So
And one thing
nothing.
I would do is get with your group and learn the algorithm process, because like, let's just say Tennessee Bass Nation, we've got, I think, 24 sponsors for that trail series. Well, to keep everyone happy and engaged, I have to obviously promote those. But if I put, and I do this just because I want to show the badge, and so that everyone sees it. When I tag all of those sponsors in one post, that post gets throttled a lot. It doesn't get out there a lot. So get with your groups that you're in. If you're on the Z Pro team, get with everybody, come up with a strategy to, like on the dugout team, we're split in half. So whenever we need something promoted, I text it with the pictures and the links to half the team. And so this week, that's what they do, is promote these few things. And then the next week, I text the other, so that we're doing it every other week, so that we don't become white noise, because that's another thing.
Oh, I see. So you don't want them to flood the gate with the product, one certain product, because then it sounds too salesy.
Absolutely.
So you kind of you schedule certain products with half of your anglers, so it doesn't look like the dugout is like pushing too many ads at once.
Absolutely, because like you, and I'm the same way. If I'm scrolling, and you've got 900 posts a day, I'm just kind of like, I will look at them, and I'll look at a few, but after so many, you just kind of, not even intentionally, just scroll past it and go to the next person,
Right.
So yeah, it does take a little bit. Yeah.
Right. The frequency, it's too often. If you see something so many times, you lose that effectiveness. I think it's a good time right now to go into more of the anglers' questions. And one of them, let me see. Let's dive into it. Give me a little bit of time. I screenshot all of them. Where is it? I thought I did. I guess I didn't screenshot all of them. But meanwhile, since we're talking about the dugout team, what is the best Jackson kayak you have available at the dugout, and why do you think that's the best Jackson kayak at the dugout?
Man,
because I know
No, you go
because
ahead.
I know that you have many kayak brands over at your shop. You have Jackson, Hobie, and what was
Old
your
Town.
last one? Old Town.
Old Town.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen quite a bit of traction on the Blue Sky. Quite a few.
Really?
Yeah, the Blue Sky Pro, the with the putting the motor guide on it and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, which I've been on it. I think it's great. I think it's a great kayak. The NAR is pretty amazing too. It's a great kayak. It's stable. It's quick. Turns well. We actually have all tricked out black ones. We have.
Oh, the Black Widow
Yep, that's
version.
it. We have that, and we have it
Wow.
in Kusa X as well. That
Nice.
Kusa X is pretty badass. I got it. Jamie rigged one for Jamie Koza's the owner. He rigged a Kusa X for himself, and he did it in playa, which we call it playa. Playa, that blue, that real cool blue, white and black.
Yeah.
But he put a Torpedo 1103 on it, and foot steering, and I brought it out here to Chickamauga. I put my little nephew in my I got a PA 14 180. And I got in that Kusa X, man, and that thing was freaking awesome. I'm almost 6'3", about 275, and dude, I was doing almost 7 miles an hour in that little kayak.
What? The Kusa
Yeah,
X?
Kusa X with 1103 Torpedo 1103 on it.
No way.
Yeah, like 6 point. It was bumping 6.8, and that was without trimming it. It was just putting it on there. So we obviously we've got demo stuff. So we've got a demo 1103 we use on different kayaks.
Yeah.
And the way it was, where the prop was in the water for what we would use it on a Hobie PA 14. But on that Kusa X, if you did some playing with it, actually Jamie and Jeff Little took because he had just gotten in that Bonafide. Jeff Little did the 127, that new paddle one, and then it's a legit kayak.
Wait,
River.
which one? The River.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when it had just the 127 had came out, now the 129 just come out or something, I think. But
do you
anyway,
guys carry bona fides or no?
No, we don't. But Jeff had one. He had one up by his house, and he took it out and put it through its paces. And he came back as that's the best river kayak I've ever been in. So he came to the shop for 4 or 5 days, and he and Jamie rigged that Kusa X. And when Jeff took it out with Jamie, and they were fishing swift current on the Toccoa River, I think it is in Georgia. When Jeff got done, he said, if it's not better, then they're at least tied, that Kusa X with that new Bonafide River, because they redid the Kusa X. He loved it. He said it was ridiculous, and so we've moved quite a few of the Kusa X's, but that murdered out black NAR is pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet, and so I think until the end of the month, everybody's got the discounted Jacksons and Hobies right now. So if y'all are in the area or you got somebody with a trailer and some wheels, we'll put you in one at the Dugout Lake Tackle down there in Marietta.
For sure. A Kusa X, I had no idea the Kusa X could go almost 7 miles an hour, because I know the Take 2 and the Jackson NAR could easily do 6.7, 6.8 miles an hour. So
yeah,
dude, that's a fast boat, and it's a short little boat. It's a nice one to drag around and do creek fishing.
Yeah, it was super. I mean, it was great. I'm glad I didn't take it, but we had a Georgia Bass Nation Three Rivers event on the Oconee, Okmulgee, and the Flint. And so I went down and stayed a couple of days with Dylan Lowry at his house, and he's he knows those rivers like the back of his hand. Well, it had flooded. So on a whim, I thought, man, I'm not great at river fishing. So, I think I'm going to take my pro angler. And I did. And the water was 7 foot above normal, and setting still, we were doing 3.5 miles an hour. So with those eddies and stuff and me being unfamiliar, I think if I would have taken that smaller kayak, I'd have been in trouble. So,
really?
Well, we would have, because then we did a 31-mile float in 9.5 or 10 hours, which, that's moving. And we were fishing oxbows because it was flooded. The water was muddy, but his battery went dead on the way down. He was in his old town, and for whatever reason, he didn't bring a fully charged battery. So, which I don't know any kayak that'll cover 31 miles in it with a battery, except for what I had. I have a Newport NK180, but I had a 100 amp hour on it. But I had to tow him about 18 miles. So if I would have brought that little Coosa with that kind of current, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. We would have flipped, and who knows what would happen. There's alligators in that water moccasins. So
Yeah. So you're saying the Hobie PA14, if it's ugly conditions versus the
it was
Kusa
super.
X?
Yeah. Well, for me, because I'm not a river fisherman. Somebody
Oh,
like
okay.
Jamie or Jeff Little, dude, they would have been no problem. They'd
Yeah.
have had a blast because they would
Yeah.
have gotten to battle the elements. But I can't. I can't battle those elements. I'll freak out and I'll
Yeah.
just fail. If I think I'm flipping, I'm gone. You know.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
guys are different. Those guys
I
love
know.
danger. They love
Insane.
danger.
I don't
Insane.
like it because my wife and I, we've traveled quite a bit, and everywhere we've went, I've done the man thing. Like, well, here's what you want to do, and I'm talking to her behind me, telling her
Mhm.
watch out for this, and I flip every freaking time. And I've drug my
Oh,
knees
wow.
across rocks. I've had my elbows smashed in them. And so now
Mhm.
I'm just paranoid. I'm like, I thought I broke both my legs one day. I was just like,
Oh, dang.
oh, and here she is back there. She's fully capable, dude. She's an amazing person, human being. So she's back there just doing her own thing and turning, and just I'm sitting here thinking, why am I telling her what to do? So I started letting her lead. I said, you go
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
So are you the type of angler that likes a creek and going and dragging the kayak and getting into a creek that no one hits, doesn't have a lot of pressure, or are you more of an open water fisherman?
I'm starting to get. I literally just had this conversation the other day. There's a guy that works at the shop that lives on the Etowah River, I think it is down there.
Mhm.
I want to get more into the river stuff. I really do. I've
Mhm.
gotten to do some of it, but about the time I got pretty decent at bass fishing was when I started running a lot of tournaments. So I just had to
Mhm.
start being selective of what I fish.
Yeah.
But I do. I want the rivers. I do. I want to get in the shoals. But
Mhm.
to answer your question right now, I live on Lake Chickamauga. I fish Gunnersville a lot, Dale Hollow, Lake Seminole.
Mhm.
I do love open water, but what I
Yeah.
fish mostly is back channel stuff off the main lake as much as I can.
Oh, okay.
And then when the sun gets high, I'll typically go back out onto the ledges on Chickamauga or Gunnersville and try to
Mhm.
fish, 15, 25 foot, and, just what I like to do. But yeah, it's
Right.
mostly open water is a lot of it.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah.
I have Dave in the chats. He was and not just Dave, but there was many other anglers that had this question: is Bassmaster coming out to the West Coast anytime?
The classic, I don't know where, well, if I did know, I couldn't say, that has to be announced, Um, I don't, and me being new inside those ranks, so to speak, I don't have a lot of insight on the history. So I
Mhm.
don't know when the last time they came out there was. Um, I want to come out there as a kayaker, but
Mhm.
I can't just yet. I have to, we just restarted this
Right.
series, rebooted it. So I have to, we want to take one more year of putting on good tournaments, make sure we can maximize attendance where we're at,
Mhm.
um, make sure that we can continue to provide the product that people trust and want to fish. And then hopefully 2024, we have another really, really good season so that we can
Mhm.
add some events. And then, because I was in discussions with some of you guys out there for the last 4 or 5 months, doing my due diligence to figure out where we need to go, what time of year we need to come
Mhm.
to,
Yep.
so that we can do it. But I can't next year. But that's something that I was talking about earlier about, we're building here, so we have to
Mhm.
continue to stay engaged because we can't do it all this year and next year, maybe not even the next year, but then the third year, the fourth year. And I know those are things we're not comfortable with because we want what we want right now. But that's why for
Right.
me the Bass Nation stuff is so important on the state level. That
Right.
has to be ran by people who want it for everyone, not just for a select few, not
Right.
just for certain regions. not just for self glory. I mean, it's so easy. There's so many, and here's something that's hard for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know no more than I know you. If you move to Tennessee tomorrow, if I needed anything, you would be like, "Hey man, I'm here to help. I'll help. I'll help." What's hard for me to say, "Hey man, I need your help." So I get that, but there are
Mm-hmm.
so many people in this community that are very capable. And something I've had to do purposefully is give them something to do. Where I could easily
Mm-hmm.
do A, B, and C on my own, give them
Mm-hmm.
C and you take care of something else. Because what you do then is you've invested into it with me because you've helped me and you get to see the fruits of your labor versus
Mm-hmm.
me just putting my head down and doing it all. And that's something my wife explained to me, and it's worked big time, especially in Tennessee and Georgia. That's where I get a lot of help from the anglers at each event. So people help us set up the banners, this, that, and the other. There's people
Mm-hmm.
now who look for where we want to eat, and get a hold of you all versus me having to message 100 and something people. And then so there's plenty of people to help. Like Florida Bass Nation, they were smart and they looked at Florida. There's all kinds of different things to do in Florida other than fish. So you got to you have to get people out there somehow. So what they did was they created 4 regions. So Florida's not massive by any means, but it's pretty spread out on these bodies of water to fish. So they come up with 4 regions. They average 18 to 25 per tournament in each region. But if you
Mm-hmm.
add all of that up, they have four events each. If you add that up, they're averaging 70 to 80 an event if you combined each region's events into one. So that's 4 events. If you add them all together, that's an 80 angler average. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But they're doing it by doing smaller regions. So what they did was say, we don't necessarily have to have 85 to 90 people in one tournament. Let's have 20 in 4.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
SoCal, Central Cal, NorCal have 3 regions. California have maybe on average 15 to 30 people per region, right? Then you got like at max, 90 people altogether for all the regions,
I mean, you could, and I wasn't meaning like
right?
specifically that's what
Yeah.
California needs. I'm
Yeah.
saying that's what you can mix and match so many different things. And
Oh,
there's
I
a
see.
lot of people that would be willing to help do that on
Yeah.
every level. Like here in Tennessee, we've had, like I said, that grassroots club for that
Mhm.
series for 8 years. We have
Yeah.
100 people in a tournament in our state championship. So when we started Tennessee Bass Nation, it was easy enough to just partner with them. But the thing about a Bass Nation is if Steve and Dominic's kayak series is established and we put a Bass Nation event with it, everybody in our club has to be a Bass Nation member. Well, not
Mhm.
everybody wants to fish on that level or pay an extra $45 a year or whatever it is. So we didn't go that route because we didn't want to force the existing membership to be a part of something that maybe they don't have time to be a part of. So we decided to start our own tournament series. But what we do is we have such a great relationship with each other. We put on events. So like if I go to Watts Bar, the Grassroots Watt Bar Club fishes in conjunction with us. So if they want to double dip, they can. So then when we go to Lake Cherokee, there's 2 or 3
Mhm.
clubs in Cherokee. They fish with us as well. So you can fish the Bass Nation if you want for $75, or you can just fish your grassroots only. And then what that does is we will double dip into the grassroots too, which increases their payout, you know?
Mhm.
So it's been a win-win in Tennessee and Georgia with that format. Florida did the region thing and it's worked great. Places like North Carolina, which has Queen City, Vinny Ferreri's club, they're hugely successful. They don't have room for another trail series. So they have an open every year and it's
Mhm.
just an open style championship. So anyone that's a Bass Nation member, which you could set your own rules. You could literally set it where if it say, let's just say it was Arizona, only Arizona Bass Nation members can join that open championship. And but you don't have to do that. And that's something that's hard to relay to a number of people successfully is that the Bass Nation is not ran by Bassmaster. Bass Nation is ran by Bass Nation.
Mhm.
And what Bass Nation is every state is sovereign. So whatever you decide to do in your state is voted on from your peers, and that's the way you guys do it. You don't have to use the Bassmaster Kayak Series rules. You can create your own rules. That makes it a little confusing and something that we're not really used to in the kayak world, but that's the system it is now. And we are under the boat tutelage, because when we come into a Bass Nation chapter, though that chapter's already been there for a very long time. So like in Tennessee here, that Bass Nation chapter's been around for 35, 40 years. So when we came to them wanting a kayak club, they don't know us. So we can come in and be a bunch of clowns and get them in trouble with taxes, or, just act a fool, or, be drunk out on the water. They don't know us. So they have to oversee it to make sure that we know what we're doing. And then hopefully, and then once we did that, they backed off, and our president actually sold his stuff and got into kayaking. He's a big kayaker now, but for now, that's what we've got. Ideally, it would be great if we had our own governing body, and that's something we're working on. We discuss it quite often. We just got to figure out how to make that work. Because the challenge you run into would still be, if state X wanted to run a trail series, is that person that's stepping up capable of running a trail series? Is he an ethical person? He or she an ethical person? Do they understand, lake permits, or are they just going to show up and be fighting with the park rangers because they can't fish today or something? But so there's a lot of challenges to that. And I hate saying be patient and stay the course, but because I'm not like that. Like my wife and I, we had a conversation at dinner with some friends last night. They were like, I'm coming up on a little bit of downtime, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm going to be aggravated every day because I don't have anything to do. And AJ McQuarters, he's a great friend of mine, lives up the road from me now. He said, this is when you rest, this is when you rest, because before you know it, everything's starting again. So, but the nation stuff can be really great. But if it's something that people want, don't give up on it. You just got to keep plugging away, and I'm here to help. We talk with a lot of people all the time. GL Compton is the new Bass Nation president at Bassmaster. He's a phenomenal guy. He gets it. He's sharp. And we'll just continue to work on everything, but like I mentioned, and you got into, things are flexible. You just got to do it together, and hopefully people listen to that, and that just ends up what happened.
So there's only one Bass Nation allowed per state, or there's multiple?
No, there's one fish in club, so to speak. So this is what was explained. The information is on the website, and I should have pulled it up. It takes some hunting to get to it, but there's supposed to be one fish in club to get you to a state championship.
Oh, okay.
Now that club can accept, Dominic and Steve's kayak series. They can look like what I'll just prime example in Tennessee. We have a trail series, Tennessee Bass Nation Trail Series. Yeah. Well, then we have the grassroots clubs. So for 4 years building this tournament series, we gave the grassroots club their top 3 in their AOI standings a state championship spot, so that they would get familiar with Bass Nation stuff. And now we don't have to do that. We just give one away starting next year, one spot. So like in Georgia, the grassroots club, we award them state championship spots from their grassroots clubs. You can design it however, but the person, whomever that is, so like, let's just say, Iowa doesn't have a Bass Nation series. So you live there, you contact that president, and he's like, okay, I want, you're welcome to start your kayak series. You're the tournament director. You set it up how you want it. That's where we're at right now, because we don't have our own body. Okay. So kind of at the mercy of the first person that gets it started.
Oh, I see.
To an extent, but now the presidents still, that like Iowa Bass Nation president is still, he's still like in Tennessee. If Dave Yuskovic, Dr. Dave, if he called tomorrow and said, Steve, we're removing you. You're out. I'm going to take it over because I want to do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything I can do about it.
Yeah.
Because right now, he holds that power. Now, I would, email everybody that I could. He would have to have a justifiable reason to do that.
Yeah.
So
I know. Well, some of the kayak anglers were kind of upset because they didn't get trophies from the last Bass Nation California series, and there are some rumors about being upset of how they've been treated during the tournament, or rules being changed, or not getting the code in time prior to the tournament. So there was a lot of bad rumors about it, in California especially. But I've learned that, being a part of the tournament scene, that there are some people that don't belong in situations, or they have a bigger ego. And like what you said earlier in the podcast is, in order to grow this community, you got to show up with no ego at all and just kind of do things for the community, and not because you're going to get your feelings hurt if you have a big ego in this community.
yeah,
Just straight up.
yeah, it's challenging, and
Yeah.
you hope that through communication, people can come together for the same common goal. But it just doesn't. I wasn't aware. I didn't hear about the trophies and stuff like that and everything. But there again, it's not like I can't do anything about it. I just
No, because
run tournaments too. But
it's a different governing body. Totally, is from what
yeah,
you're saying, right?
but it still sucks if that's what happened to
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah.
I do. I empathize with that big time, because that's something, like I talk with Damien Tao out there some, and pretty good friends with several other people out there, and
Yeah.
you got a great community. That's why it truly does bother me that I can't put a tournament or two in every single state, because this is what keeps me going. It's like getting to talk to new people, like we're doing now, and that's something I enjoy. I do. I want to do things to make people happy in my life. It keeps me happy. We all talk. I'm an open book. Mental depression and anxiety and stress and stuff. That's a real thing. And so I've got my own little steps that I do, and part of that is kind of sort of being a people pleaser. That helps me. If I'm making you happy, I could feel like crap, but I just made you happy. Well, that makes my day a little bit better. It's kind of like I'm a
That's
big
why.
proponent. If I walk by somebody in the store, I'm, hey, how you doing? They may never answer me, but I do feel like every day you can cross one person that you can make, at least if they don't want to say hi to you, they do and smile. That might be that turning point in their day where they have a better day because they were angry about something. And so that's just what I love to do in this arena is do stuff to help make people happy, and I had no idea that us coming up with those blue trophies with catch would do that, man. Dude, these people go nuts over those blue trophies. I don't have them, but
Bassmaster Kayak Series definitely got the right person as their tournament director and running the Bassmaster Kayak Series. If you are literally what you just said, like you're a people pleaser, you like to turn frowns into smiles upside down, and you don't have a big ego, and you're creating this community and this sport with one of the best teams out there, arguably the best team out there at Dugout. That's incredible. Because I do believe that each one of these clubs, each one of these organizations have to do a better job in making a positive experience for the new anglers that are sacrificing their time and effort to dedicate their time towards a circuit or a club, because it's literally fishing takes a lot out of family time in general, and just and effort in general. So I'm happy that Bassmaster has the right person to run the events.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, man. It means a lot. And I mean, I get told that, and it doesn't get old because, like I do, I know that I work hard and I do a good job at things, but, self-confidence is not easy for me. But
Mhm.
when I get it at the tournaments, when I see Possum Kingdom in particular was just nuts. That tournament, all of those fish getting caught, and then just people having so much fun. Um,
Yeah.
that was it. That clicked for me. Daniel Davis got to go with me. My little nephew, he's 12.
Mhm.
He'll be 12 in October. He got to go, and that event right there is when it clicked for me. I was like, man, this is it. I made the right choice.
Right.
Doing this full time so that I could dedicate the time it deserves.
Yeah.
And if ever if ever there's a point in any series that I run, and that's a good thing about it, is I have enough people that we're honest with that would literally come in and let me know when I'm not doing a good job, or if I'm doing something arrogant or being a prick
Mhm.
about something or whatever, dude, that we tell each other, because we have to, because nobody's got your
Yeah.
back, unless you are intentional about it. And so, yeah, but as soon as it ever got to where I was doing the things and it wasn't good for the club itself, then I would just leave it. I mean, we've got a great grassroots club here that this year it sacrificed a little bit. We didn't have as good. We had a good year. We had fun,
Mhm.
but we didn't have the TVKA. That's the plaque on the back there. Lambert and them got me one year. It lights up. It's a big metal thing.
Mhm.
That's our dude. That's our deal right there, man. It's TVKA, and it slacked off quite a bit, and it bothered me big time. So we've got a revamp coming for it next year, and if I can't keep it going the way that we have a standard, then I'll have to leave it,
Yeah.
because I can't do that to the people, because if you show up expecting something and you don't get it, then I need to let somebody else try their hand at it. But right
Yeah, for
now,
sure.
we've got it's a group. It's me, Ryan Lambert, Daniel Davis, Joe Kurt, Casey Smith, Bobby
Mhm.
Tinker. We've got more than just one director. So, that's where I'm learning Dylan Smith to let others do more, and
Mhm.
it's going to work. It's going to work pretty good.
Awesome. That's great. It's either like bring something to bring on a great experience for all the anglers or shut it down.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think about last question? What do you think about, well, not the last question, but what do you think about two motors on a kayak?
I don't like it just because and again, let's just talk about that real quick. The ratings that you see on these kayaks,
Mhm.
those ratings were based off of when the Bassmaster series came out and we allowed motors. The 1103 hadn't been out long. So
Mhm.
people tested their kayaks with an 1103, which was the biggest that we had at the time. That's
Mhm.
the reason that rating stopped right there. So, like with the NK300, now this is where Ramel needs to come out with a sticker to put on every NK300 sold. That NK300 fits within that capacity, those parameters, even though the language doesn't look like it, because there's math in there that brings its foot pounds of thrust down to being legit in that category. So that's where I'm getting to. So you've got an NK300 or an 1103 on the backs of these kayaks.
Mhm.
That's torque. It's twisting. So you've got a
Yeah.
motor guide with spot lock on the front.
Mhm.
There's going to be a perfect scenario when they both come on, and that's going to be flexing and twisting. You're going to snap that hull, or you're going to bust it and you're going to sink. Or over time, this is my personal opinion, and I'm not just making it, I won't just throw it out there because it's something to think of because I don't agree with 2-on-1. I think it's great to use. I've been on one with one and it's pretty awesome. You haul butt
Yeah.
with your 1103 and then get out there spot lock.
Yeah.
But my thing is what does all of that weight? So now you're in the center of this kayak. You got a motor here and a motor here. There's that weight. What's that doing to that kayak? You know,
Mhm.
it's pulling it down. Like you put your motor guide on a trailer and leave it out there for 6 months in the elements. I guarantee you that kayak the bow is the front, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That bow, I bet you, has turned down a little bit. It has to. It's plastic. It melts. I've seen
Yeah.
kayaks melt on trailers, high dollar kayaks.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, safety wise, that kayak is going to do something somewhere. It may be a third of the way, but just from what I've experienced with, and I have had zero issues with any kayak I've ever owned. I
Mm-hmm.
just was sent an autopilot 136 that I can't wait to rig at the dugout and get out
Mm-hmm.
there. I've had a 360. I've got a 14 180. I had a 12 180. I've had 6 different native Titans and propels that I loved. I've never had an issue with a kayak. I had 2 rudders break just over wear and tear, but that's it. Never had an issue with kayak. But I see the issues with kayaks and what we want it. And it's hard to rationalize why you can't have one. But I just feel like having 2 like that, it's going to break on somebody in the middle of Lake Havasu during jet ski season. And it's, it's just not going to be good. So I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. But I just feel like that's a point where we kind of, I feel like we need to stop. But I'm not right about everything. I've been wrong a whole lot in my life. But that's just my opinion, and that's why in every tournament series we run, we make sure we let you guys know, hey man, you've got my number and my email. I just lead this thing and put things into action. All of what we do is not my idea. It's everybody's idea, because I'm not right all the time. I don't understand the things that you understand that can make us better. So I listen. But that's just my opinion on the motors thing like that. Well, what do you think about it?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of overkill, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I feel like, hey, if you're gonna do something like that, might as well stick a 24 volt in front of your motor, have spot lock, and go about 5 miles per hour average. And you're almost going as fast as the NK 180s. Just step up in voltage and go faster either in the back or go faster from the front. But having 2 motors, it's just, at that point you can't even it's hard to flip a kayak back around. Like, let's say if you flip the whole entire kayak, it's almost near impossible to flip it back up right side up with one motor and all those heavy batteries in there. And I'm not going to be able to flip my kayak back up if I have my live scope battery in there and my other battery for my graph, and then the 100 amp hour in there, plus my Motor Guide XI3 and all the fishing gear I bring with me. Like, it's hard enough to flip that right side back up. So I don't know. I think it just becomes too overkill, especially for certain kayaks, like smaller than 13 foot, and people are putting two motors on there. It's a little bit excessive. Like, when does it come to an end at some point? It's almost kind of like, it's like a never ending cycle.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like more on, your fishing than having that small little edge on someone.
Yeah, and again, there, I think what you nailed it, and that was something I had thought of. I just didn't state it. Getting back into your kayak, reentry. It's number one. It's probably going to be impossible with a motor guide on the front. Just because that's a lever arm, that lays there, acts as a keel, so you're not going to be able to. But the other thing is we're not talking about fishing. We're talking about, we want to trick it out. That's what we do with things.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just wanting to trick it out,
Exactly.
That's what we do at dugout. We make these big builds, and that's something I'm excited about with that autopilot. Is I want to do a progressive build on it. I don't want to just throw out a Jamie Koza or a Ramel, pimp my ride $30,000 rig. I want to do a progressive, a progression. Because, myself included, we can't just go out and buy everything we want on a kayak. So I'm going to start out with what's first: my battery for the drive, my storage accessories, because I've got everything. I'm a tackle junkie, but I don't take a lot of tackle fishing anymore because it's become a waste. It's what I will do is, if I buy the new Duos 5.8, I throw it instead of a shaky head that they're biting. I
Yeah.
start throwing what I bring because I bought these cool toys, you know. So I had to
Mhm.
quit. I had to quit bringing it all. I had to just look at what am I going to do today and bring 3 or 4 backup plans. And
Yep,
then, but I want
exactly.
to do, yeah, I want to do that. And then I want to put, a good, I don't want to say budget friendly because if you're going to buy a fish finder, in my
Mhm.
opinion, save and buy the one that you want.
Yeah,
That's the one.
absolutely.
I've had fish finders. I had one Helix 10 Mega when they first came out
Mhm.
that I put on 6 different kayaks. I don't
Yep.
sell my fish finders when I get rid of a kayak because
No.
number one, there's no margin on electronics, so you're not going to get a deal no matter who you work for. You're going to
Mhm.
save 15% at the most, probably.
Right.
If you get lucky and they give you one, then you really won. But
Mhm.
that'll so I want to do my next one. I want to do a really good fish finder, and then after that, add something else to it, add something else to it, and as I do it, I want to do not necessarily a tutelage. I just can't think of the right word, but my wife, her little Bible study recently came up with one that was really great, and I used it recently. Comparison, comparison is the enemy of joy. So if you're constantly comparing something, you're not going to be
Yeah.
happy with what you have. So, if you're trying to compare an autopilot 136 with a Pro Angler 360 or a Jackson NAR, you can't. They're different fishing vessels.
Yep.
So let's stop trying to say this is better than this. This is better than. Let me just tell you why I like this autopilot. What I think it excels
Exactly.
at, and do that. I want to do that with everything that we sell, as well as some of our products. And
Right.
that's I'm going to start with that autopilot first because
Mhm.
I'm unfamiliar with it, and that's going to help me learn it to help market it. Then I'm going to roll into my Pro Angler, why I love it, and then I'll go on through some more brands there because we've got some more tournament stuff coming up this year. I'll announce that in a couple of weeks probably. We've got a few more things I'm going to start up, so be pretty exciting. So
I
hopefully,
100% believe in that comparison deal. Is like
yeah,
you cannot compare a Take Two or Jackson Nar with an autopilot because an autopilot is and I'll say it. I'm with the Jackson regional team, but I'll say
mm-hmm.
it. Old Town's a great boat. It
Right,
is probably to me, it's probably the best boat to stand up on.
right.
It is so stable and it has
But
a
I feel
great
like Old Town and Jackson are the two
yeah,
best built kayaks. They
yeah,
are the two plastic. Those are the two best built kayaks. Yeah, you're
exactly.
right.
But if you want to go super fast, you jump on a Jackson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You want to
Have you
go
got the
fast, Jackson.
yeah? Have you got the fool with that new big rig any?
The big rig? No,
Yeah,
not yet.
yeah,
No.
yeah. We got. I need. I got to hush. I
I need to
probably got to
stop
turn.
by. I need to stop by the dugout and just
Yeah,
do a whole bunch of demos on the Jacksons and all the kayaks that you own.
yeah. It's a good time, man, and it's I'm pretty spoiled and blessed, man. I live 2.5 hours. I can be on 25 different great bodies of water, an
Mhm.
hour and a half from the dugout. So everything I get to do is just it's pretty nuts, man. I can't believe it. I sit around and freak out sometimes. Like on a slow day,
Mhm.
I'm like, because I'm used, I immediately went into chemical work right out of high school. To be honest with you, I had a kid in high school, so I just got a job, which it was a phenomenal one. And that's what I did for 30 years. And I'm a clock puncher. Well, now I'm at home, and I'm like, what am I doing, man? You're a man gets up and goes to work, but I'm
Yeah.
sitting here living a dream.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, but yeah, I remember. I think this is the gentleman here. We've spoken. He got to use it on Lake Fork, I believe it was. Yeah. Uh,
The Big Mac
para,
with
yeah,
Para
para angler.
Angler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome. I think that's great. Old Town should continue to make great kayaks and those that don't have the two legs to move a kayak, that's awesome. And I'm glad Bassmaster allows motors because for para anglers, like you know, you can't really fish Hobie BOS without a motor, you know.
Yeah.
You can't
Something
fish it.
this is something Ramel is one of the best ambassadors of the sport that we
Mhm.
probably ever have or ever will have. But 3 or 4 years ago, he was talking about um, the paddle kayaks. He's like, I don't want a pedal kayak. I was like, you crazy, man. I mean, it's hands free.
Mhm.
And now that we do what we do at Dugout, and I'm seeing like the Kusa X and then the Take Two, I'll have to shoot you some pictures of it
Mhm.
one day soon. We got. Let me pull this guy up. I may send it to you real quick. Maybe you throw it on the screen if it's easy. But we got but Ramel was talking about um, the paddle kayak.
Mhm.
I was like, dude, why do you keep doing this or this? And he was like, man. And then when we started rigging them the way we do. I see it now, and there are instances where, um, yeah, I found it.
Is it a link?
Where no, it's a hold on, I'll extend it to you here in Messenger. I think that's a U pick or take two. It's take two, isn't it?
Mhm.
We
Let me
just
see.
rigged. We put an NK 300 and tiller steering on that for a gentleman in Alabama.
Oh, wow. So it's all hand steering.
Yep. So, because his wife or girlfriend I hope I didn't screw that up, Robert. Sorry, his wife or girlfriend, she sits in the front and they trout
Yeah.
fish. Yeah, there's the NK in the back, and
Oh, cool.
yep, it's got the a tiller handle. You can see in front of that green on his life jacket, and yep,
Where's the
yeah,
tiller?
that's the
Where
Jerry
where
Garcia, huh?
where is the
No,
tiller?
all right, you see the back seat, the one in the back. You see that green, that lime green there
Yep.
in that seat. Look right down from it, that black bar going that right there. Yeah, you got it. That black bar, that's the tiller handle. It goes all the way back to the back and does a couple of little steering things.
Let me see if I could share.
Yeah, right there where her blue life jacket is.
Let me
Is
see. Share screen. Well, this is kind of a cluster. But right here, let me see if I could just open that up. Can you see that?
yeah,
And then I'll just zoom onto it.
there you go. All right.
So right
See
around
that?
here.
That's it. See that green in his seat?
Yeah.
All right. Drop your cursor straight down. You see that black bar with the silver in? Yeah, that's it.
Oh, this bar right here. This
That
long
Yak
bar.
Attack stakeout pole. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
That's the
That was
steering
easy.
for it?
That's it. Yep. You can reach right there. It's got a padded handle. Your hand won't slide off the front grip. The person in the back can either steer it through that Zuka tube, or the person in the front can steer it too.
No
So,
way.
yep.
Does it work like a charm?
Yeah. Works smooth. Smooth, smooth.
No
Yeah.
way.
You got to be
That's
careful because,
crazy.
um, those aren't NARs. Those aren't as stable as a NAR. So with that NK 300 on the back of it,
Yeah.
it freaking thing almost pops a wheelie. Like you can do a
No
360
way.
very tight, very tight. So you could dump yourself pretty easy if you're not careful. It's got that much power, and
That's the
so
NK300?
it is. So there's that, and so now you've got two full-grown people in that kayak,
Mhm.
and yeah, he just blast. They skinny water fish. They shoal fish, so they'll blast down or up, wherever they're at, and get themselves out of the swift water, and then they just cruise from spot to spot to spot.
Have you demoed one of the Take Twos with the NK300 or 1103?
Just that one. Just that
Oh, you
one.
demoed that one.
Jamie did. I didn't. Jamie did. We've got a
Oh,
video
Jamie
of it
did.
too. Yeah, we've got a video of it
Is
too.
it blazing fast or what?
I didn't. In the pond, we can't get it
Oh, you
all the
can't.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't get it all the way up to speed. But
That's exciting.
yeah, it was pretty nuts. It was
I kind of want to do that now. I kind of want a tiller handle so I could steer with my hand instead of steer with my feet. It looks
yeah.
like a much simpler setup too.
Like I love my foot steering, but I mean
Yeah.
it wears on your feet. I mean it hurts after a while. After all day long, your
Yeah.
feet and your ankles get sore.
Yeah.
Um, but I now that I had it when we first figured out how to do it, and I used it for a little while in the wintertime, and I had boots on because it gets cold here, and I didn't
Yeah.
like it, so I took it off and fished about 2 years without it. And I borrowed a kayak on the road, and the guy had it in his, and I fell back in love with it fishing Seminole because it was windy, super
Yeah.
windy, and I didn't even have to take my hands off. I could just turn that motor. I have an NK. It had an 1103 on it. I've got an NK 180, but I would just bump that steering and make it just turn real slow, and I could
Yeah.
stay. I could course correct just like a 360. I was in a 360, but I got tired of having to sit and fool around, so I just
Yeah.
barely engaged that motor, and it was easy for me to do what I needed to do. So the
With
foot
the
steering,
tiller handle.
yeah, no, with a regular
Oh,
foot
okay.
steering. So yeah, I fell back in love
Oh,
with the
okay.
foot steering. Yeah.
Oh, you
So
did? Oh, okay.
yeah, because I came from, I was with Native for 5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
so I believe, in my opinion, the Hobie drive is the most efficient for movement, kinetic energy, and all
Mhm.
that. It's the easiest on me ergonomically. Bicycle drive hurts one of my hips pretty bad for some
Yeah.
reason, but it didn't start until 3 or 4 years ago. But I was with a Native forever, and I missed even going into a Hobie. I still miss that bicycle instant reverse, like on a Jackson or a
Oh,
Native and
yeah.
all that. I really missed, to this day. I miss it. I really do. As much as I
Yeah.
love my Hobie drive, I miss that instant reverse. And it sounds petty, but it's just a creature comfort. Um, I
I'd
still feel
imagine, like, fishing cypress trees with that instant reverse, it's nicer to have,
it's
or
perfect. It's awesome.
docks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got my first experience with an old town was my wife and I went on a big long road trip up northeast, and we stopped by Rod Merritt's house. He lives in Maine. He's on the old town team, so we went fishing in those smallmouth lakes up there with him. And
Mhm.
I was in a PDL 120, and so was my wife. And freaking, I mean, like I said, I'm a big dude, and I was in that 12-foot PDL and super like
Mhm.
20-mile-an-hour winds all day, and it was freaking awesome. I never felt like I was going to flip or anything. So
You said 120 PDL?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Old Town Greats makes a great boat.
yeah.
Oh,
That was
it's like a
that was
tank.
when I decided. I was like, we could, we got room for a little bit more
Mhm.
uh, at the shop. So I went
Yeah.
back and I actually got to tour the plant, and that was cool. But I mean, I only live. It takes me about 48 minutes to make it to the Jackson plant.
Oh,
So yeah, I live at the bottom of
really?
the mountain from the Jackson plant. Yep. Yep.
Wow, I need to take a visit. I really
Yeah,
do.
dude, you really need to come down here, man. It's
Yeah.
something else. Like again, it's just there's just so much to do in this area. Like I said, I don't live 2 hours. I can be on Del Hollow for one of the best smallmouth lakes in the country. Hour and a half. I'm on Gunnersville, which is we
Are
got
you
our
in Knoxville or are you in
Chattanooga. We call it Chattanooga. I'm south of Knoxville, about an hour and 50 minutes.
how far are
So,
you away from do you know Daniel Perry, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
How far away do you guys
Probably
live from each
he
other?
is around. I actually, when me and my wife came back from vacation, we stopped in Birmingham. That's where he lives essentially,
Mhm.
which is the Bassmaster headquarters. About 2.5 hours. But
2.5
Daniel,
hours.
he's taking a lot of my money. He fishes he fishes my grassroots TVKA when we go to Alabama. He's come up
Yeah.
here a few times. He fishes the Bass Nation stuff when we go down to Gunnersville.
Yeah.
And I also run the GSM, which used to be Rattle Trap tournament. They
Mhm.
have a boat tournament that's 300 something boats on Gunnersville every year. Well,
Oh
3 years ago, they started a kayak tournament and they asked me to run it. So I run it too. And Daniel, he he won our TVKA that Saturday. We fished on Sunday. Man, he's going to shoot me. I forget where he finished. I'm pretty sure he cashed a good check on that
yeah.
the rattle trap tournament. We'll call it. It's GSM now. It's Yamamoto rattle trap, Bill Lewis
Mhm.
rattle trap, Buckeye
Yeah.
lures. They just bought Big Bite Baits, that soft plastic company, so and swim bait company. So
Yeah.
we do that the 1st of February every year. That's something you guys need to get. Probably should try to do out there is reach out to one of those big product manufacturers like that,
Mhm.
and get them do one of their classics, open style things like that, and just put on one of those and drop 180 people in it like y'all did the. How many did y'all have in the native Big Bass Power Hour? Was it 200 something?
I think I'm not sure how much we had over at
I
the
thought it
native.
was 230 or something like that.
Was it really 230 for
It
California
was something
native?
like that. I've got it right here. I'm gonna pull it up real quick before we get off here because that needs to be shouted out. I drove down because, like I said, I don't live far from the Gunners, but we had 8 or 9 of our dugout team fishing it. So I drove down to the one Vinny just did on Gunnersville, and we had Josh Stewart finished third, Ethan Jett was second, Jordan Marshall won it. So, but yeah, 182. Anthony Garcia won it. I got to meet him
108.
at the
Yeah.
Classic. Yep, I got to
Oh,
meet
right
Anthony at
on.
the Classic with Damien. Yeah, yeah,
Did you go to the
yeah.
classic?
I'm pretty sure he did. Anthony did. No, I'm
No,
wrong. It wasn't
no, no,
Anthony. Who
no. It
was it?
was
Was it maybe
AJ, I think.
Martinez?
I
Yeah, it
think
was
it
AJ
was AJ Ramirez.
Ramirez. Yeah, God, I sound like an idiot. I can't remember anybody's name. It's so hard. Yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
people in the sport, but that was I tell you what, that really right there for me, meeting those guys uh was like, man, I hope everything out there can get straightened out sooner rather than later. So
You know what's cool is that Damien Tao, I mean, he finished way better than I thought he would finish, which I'm so happy he did. Is that a small community where he's from in Fresno? Dude, there was like 60,000 views on a reel I made at the award ceremony. And there was like over 500 comments of his community just reaching out to him saying, "Congratulations, you're great." And and he belongs to a small community in Fresno, Central California. And for him to be spotlighted on the stage of the Bassmaster Classic is like,
yeah,
that's like a
pretty unreal.
memory. You can't make those dreams come true. I mean, that's something you fantasize as a child,
It is, and
as a
see that
kid.
that like for me, like I told you, I didn't grow up bass fishing,
Yeah.
Um, so all of this fanaticism with bass was new to me, So
Yeah.
I, it took, I'm a huge baseball, basketball, football guy,
I was
but
gonna ask you that about football though. I was
yeah.
gonna ask you, who do you take? Just a random question. Who do you take, Manziel or Tebow?
Oh, in college, oh God,
Yeah.
man, I think Tebow because of the leadership. I feel like Manziel studded out
Yeah.
because of just raw ability.
Yeah.
And I feel like Tebow, I feel like I don't even want to say one was better under pressure, but I just feel like Tebow's safer, maybe, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
those
see.
two, because like Tebow, Reggie Bush, Marshall Falk, and Manziel are the 4 most exciting players I've ever seen in college football.
Oh, you saw him live? Did you see him live at all?
I didn't see Marshall Falk, but just watching. But I didn't see all the others.
Yeah.
I actually got to see Alabama get revenge on Manziel because he whipped us one year. Me and
Mhm.
about seven or my family's from Alabama, so
Yeah.
we're Alabama fans. But I go to a lot of UT Tennessee games, and
Mhm.
so me and some buddies went to Tennessee at Oregon and uh, Eugene, Oregon,
Mhm.
and that right there was phenomenal. That was ridiculous.
Wow.
So I left the game at halftime because Manziel was beating Alabama, and so I got to enjoy that. We got freaking beat. I was sitting out there all the way out in Oregon pouting, but that's a phenomenal place, man. I don't know if you've ever been, but Oregon was just freaking awesome.
Did they have Justin Herbert?
No, they did. Dude, this was probably, golly, this was a long time ago. Probably, well, see, I got married in when did I get married? 2011. This is probably 2012, 13, maybe 2013, I think. So yeah, it was a long time ago. It's about 10 years ago or so. So no, he wasn't there, but
Yeah, Herbert's relatively new. He's like 3 years
yeah,
in the NFL or 2 years in the NFL.
yeah.
But that's awesome. You get to see those college boys play, and then now they make it to the NFL, and it's either they're great or they're a dud. But yeah, that's awesome. You're a football guy, huh?
Yeah, love football.
Do you get time to watch football while running all these tournaments?
I do, because I mean it kind of winds down a little bit. Like this coming weekend, we've got our Tennessee Bass State Championship, and Daniel runs those tournaments. I just organize them and put them on.
Yeah.
So I fish that series, and then I organize and run Georgia. I fish some of those tournaments, but I don't fish that state championship. But I do the Tennessee one because Daniel does 99% of that. But the Alabama game comes on at 7 p.m. So I'll be able to. Yeah.
Tune in for sure.
That's absolutely right. So I can't wait for that. So
one of our veterans, and I'll let you go after this. One of our veterans in California, he's asking for it. He's asking for one tournament to help anglers qualify in the Bassmaster Classic or Championship next year. He wants you to do it, Steve.
Hey, there's everybody out there seems to be trying to work on getting an open of some sort,
Yeah.
So I think it can happen pretty easily. And, again, I'll do everything I can to make sure that happens, and including staying engaged in the conversations. I've talked, your guys' president out there is Kong, is it Kong Mao. And we talk quite often, and then a lot of the kayakers are always messaging, wanting to know what's going on, and I mean, it's being worked on. So nobody's forgotten about you all. Trust me. It's I've got 4 states on my notes that stays on there every week that we just ping, and something will develop. So just be patient, and it'll happen the right way. So, but
well, I think this is a perfect time to end the podcast. So, is there anybody
I'm sliding in the fantasy draft right now? So,
is there anybody that you would like to thank before you sign out?
Man, obviously, my wife, she's pretty great. She's the reason I get to do this. God's taken a huge liking to me for some reason, and I appreciate him for that. And but dude, like, seriously, you guys, like the podcast people, this is what we just did now. Is we communicated to a lot of people, a lot of information, and so, I feel like this is where it's needed the most. And I appreciate you having me on and being patient with the time crunch and getting sick. Whew, yeah. So
no worries, man.
Yeah. I appreciate all that. And of course, Bassmaster for continuing to put the faith in our community. And then let me run it for a little while, see how we do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Let me know if you ever need anything else.
For sure. Let me go ahead and end this, and